How's the TIFF thing going?
It's good. It's really enchanting and wonderful, and also a little bit like getting run over by a bus. So
What's that last part?
yeah, well, I'm in a big monsoon. I'm sort of spinning at full dervish here. I'm talking to you, which is great, and talking to everybody, and slapping backs, chomping cigars. No, I'm not doing that.
And the Canada's choice in the race for Best International Feature Film at the Oscars. Is that a surprise for you?
Yeah. I come from the sub-earthly, subhuman realm of experimental filmmaking in Winnipeg. So for this movie to be, evaluated on such a high level is kind of mind-boggling and discombobulating. I'm not a competitive person. I don't have any expectation. Any high hopes I had as a boy have long been beaten out of me. So I don't expect anything. But but it's really nice and it's really beautiful for our crew. I made this movie with my best friends, and so it's really, I don't know, it's kind of fun. It's insofar as it's like a measure of how the film has connected. That's really exciting, and it's beautiful for us.
My understanding is the origins of the film are a story your grandmother told you. Is that right?
Yeah.
Can you tell me that story?
Sure. So when my grandmother was a child in Winnipeg during the Depression.
Do you mind if I ask her name?
Yeah, her name was Florence.
Florence Rankin?
Yeah. Buchanan.
Yeah. Okay.
So she found a $2 bill frozen in the ice on the sidewalk in Winnipeg. And she and her brother found this, and they, trying to get it out, and they ended up going on this odyssey to find an axe to release it from the ice.
ما خیلی خوششانسیم 500 ریال تو یخ پیدا کردم.
500 ریال؟ نگه فکر کن میتونیم چقدر جوراب بخریم.
نه باید به دوستم امید کمک کنی.
میخوای همشو بدی بره؟
اون چشاش نمیبینه. وای بوخلمون عینکشو دزدیده.
It was kind of this sweet story that I always kind of liked growing up. And it reminded me of all of these Iranian films that I loved from the 1970s and 80s that were produced by Qanun, the Institute for the Intellectual Development of Children and Young People, which produced so many of the classics of the Iranian masters, Where's the Friend's House by Abbas Kiarostami, and so many other ones, The White Balloon. It reminded me of these sort of children's fables, children facing adult dilemmas and kind of leading to some kind of very humanist, poetic synthesis is always what happens at the end. And I always loved these films. As a very naive young person, I went to Iran. I really wanted to study filmmaking there. That was my dream. And I learned very quickly that it was going to be really hard, but I met a lot of really beautiful people. And my life has had this sort of dialogue with Iran since then. And so my fantasy was to tell this story through the prism of this language, this sort of cinematic language of these old Iranian films. And then I met my co-writer, and also he's the star of the film, Piruz Nemati, and Ila Firuzabadi, also co-writer, and has a very charming cameo in the film. And we started working on it. And the idea to make it all in Persian, with it would still be in Winnipeg, but with this all Persian cast. That's really sort of appealed to our idealism about human connection and sort of blending spheres and creating proximity where there might be distance. And so it was that's sort of what set us on the path to making it.
How did you get into Iranian film?
Yeah, I had an Iranian friend, and she introduced me. She took me to see Where's the Friend's House when I was about 17 or 18.
In Winnipeg?
Yeah, and it had a profound and very immediate impact.
Tell me, I love hearing about like the unlocking work. I often hear about the like, I saw this thing and it, you know what I mean? Or I heard this thing and it sent me on the path.
Yeah.
Tell me about this. I don't know this film. I don't know that much about Persian cinema.
Yeah, it's so beautiful. One thing that I really like about it, and this is something maybe you can trace throughout a lot of Persian films, is the space it gives to quiet zones. Like a lot of the films that I grew up watching were, American films trying to pin me to my seat, And the way we use the camera in Western cinema, it's always very kind of, it's this very alpha male kind of way of filming where one person's speaking and so the camera's on that person. Then when that person stops speaking and the next person talks, the camera goes to that. And it's always like, where is the action? The camera must follow the action at all times. And that, I don't know, for me, that's like very, very, North American way of seeing things. Certainly American, maybe not so much Canadian, but definitely very American.
Sure.
But in Iran, there's always lots of space given to what is next to the action, Maybe the person listening is, we should be more attentive to that person than the person talking, These tropes were, I just found them to be, I'd never seen anything like it. And it had a very profound and emotional impact.
And you were 17 and you went to this theater.
Yeah.
And you just went, that's it. That's what I want to do. I want to make films like that. This is what I'm interested in. This is the kind of thing that I'm...
Well, yeah. I mean, I am like, I have a very vast cinematic appetite. And my big passion is cinematic language. That's my big passion. I'm not so much a narrative filmmaker. I do come from an experimental tradition. So it's the language of cinema that really interests me. And I've worked in documentary and animation and also fiction. And so, yeah, but this particular language was one that I found to be just utterly singular and beautiful.
So you go to Iran?
Yeah.
How old were you?
I was 21.
Already in film at this point? Or you were going over there to learn how to make...
That was my big scheme.
How did it go? Tell me.
Well, it was sort of a non-event, to be honest. I kind of like...
Listen, this is the CBC. We love non-events. I'm built for non-events, baby. This is all I got.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. I sort of went to a few places and, kind of learned quickly that I was this big dummy who thought he could just, waltz in and learn. But I met a lot of really great people, and I spent 3 months in Iran, and it sort of set me on a path to learning Farsi, which I'm still learning in very slow motion. And it sort of opened me up to a lot of connections. It's sort of bizarrely, it has been a film school in a way, because I feel like every time I make a film, I'm learning how to make films. I'm learning how to see. And making this film, particularly in collaboration with Piruz and Ila, I felt like I was learning how to see in a new way. So in a way, I did go to film school in Iran, but by a very different channel.
I love the way you sort of reimagine Winnipeg in this film. The Tim Hortons as a tea room, all the language is in Farsi, but there's still the massive photos of Tim Horton on the wall, which I got a kick out of.
تون قشنگیه اتفاقا. یه نمای آرام بخش اتوبان هم جلوتونه آقا. زمان زود میگذره. خب رسیدیم.
You were looking at the city you grew up in, you came up in, and getting to I guess put a spin on it, getting to reimagine it.
Yeah, you could describe the movie as like a Venn diagram. You could describe it as a Hawaiian pizza.
Hold on, if it's a Venn diagram, what are the two pieces going into the?
Well, that's it. It's a merge of like of different cinematic languages. It does, and also cities. It kind of takes place in Montreal, it kind of takes place in Winnipeg, it kind of takes place in Tehran, but not really any of them. It kind of takes place at the confluence of all three. There's a hybridity. It's creating a new way of looking at the world, and so you're seeing iconographies that you might associate with Canada through the prism of Tehran, and you're seeing You're seeing Tehran through the prism of Winnipeg, and at a certain point you don't exactly know where this is happening. And so we think of the movie as taking place in a space between. It's kind of this like liminal zone, which really only cinema can produce. But in a weird way, I feel like our lives are like that too.
Tell me what you mean by that.
I think particularly post-pandemic, we're like sort of in this zone where we're really kind of focused on, I don't know, there's a lot of solitude and a lot of like luminous Berlin walls have going up around us, and
like culturally or
or politically or whatever. I mean, all manner of binary we can imagine. I feel like they've become really a lot more rigid, but at the same time, we're sort of working from the notion that identity is very fluid, and in fact, I feel like in our lives, that's very true. You know, there's many roles we play in life. You know, there's how we are as a son or as a parent or as a friend. These are all kind of variations of identity in a way. and the people we relate to, the people who we love. I made this movie with my best friends, and we're all from all over the world, and we're kind of relating to, we're all part of each other's story in a weird way. You know what I mean? So I in a weird way, I feel like life is in this kind of interzone, and that's kind of beautiful, so.
I'm embarrassed to tell you that it wasn't until watching your film that I knew that I found out that Winnipeg itself has a pretty strong and well-populated Persian community.
Yeah.
So then I read that. I was feeling smart, and it's a rare thing. And I went, and then I was all excited to mention that to you.
Yeah.
And then, of course, I'm doing the research to talk to you for this thing, and I saw this great quote from you about it, that someone had beaten me to it. And then you said, yeah, I made it in collaboration with the Persian community of Winnipeg, and also for them as my target.
Target audience, yeah.
What do you? I meant target audience. Important to add there.
Yeah.
Tell me. I would love to hear more about that.
Well, I mean, there are little winks in the movie to. I mean, there's like jokes that, Winnipeggers will have the fullest joy of that particular line. And Farsi speakers, there's certain like jokes in it that you might understand them in the subtitles, but really, Farsi speakers will have the greatest joy of that specific moment. And similarly in French, there's like little jokes for Quebecers and French speakers, and kind of like they will have the most pleasure in that moment. And when I was thinking about this, I was kind of like, wow, Iranian Canadians who live in Winnipeg will understand everything. Like this is their movie. Like it's like they are kind of the one demographic that will really understand every reference. So that's kind of fun.
What about the collaboration part of that?
We made most of the film in Montreal. We shot quite a bit of Montreal for Winnipeg.
I'm surprised to hear that because the grayness and beigeness and the brutalism of Winnipeg, of the architecture there, I really love about Winnipeg. To be honest, I figured, this has to be downtown Winnipeg.
Yeah, well, I mean, a lot of it, Winnipeg plays many places in life. It's in it's in a lot of Christmas movies now.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay,
It's
cool.
played Chicago many times.
Right.
Dallas, even. I think there's one movie where Winnipeg plays Japan, which is kind of amazing. Yeah. But I mean that's again, it's about the roles we play. I mean, I'm really interested in like the artifices of cinema, and in cinema you have a place playing another place. You have a person playing another person. You have seasons playing other seasons sometimes, right? And so Winnipeg is it is we did shoot a little bit of Montreal for Winnipeg, and we even shot a little bit of Winnipeg for Montreal. In fact, the film was I would say overwhelmingly with the Iranian community of Montreal. Was sort of like that was sort of the biggest community of the movie. But when we went to Winnipeg, yes, we did a lot of local casting in Winnipeg, and we worked with the Iranian Association of Manitoba. And my friend, a young filmmaker, Omid Motaresed, was one of the associate producers on it, and he introduced us to a lot of people, and it was all non-actors in the movie. I mean, non-actors in the sense that
non-professional actors, non-people with IMDb pages.
That's right, exactly, including myself. I don't consider myself a professional actor by any stretch of the imagination, but we really did our casting like that. We kind of like most of the people who are in the movie are our friends, like our immediate friends, and we kind of like wrote the characters for specific people we knew, and then getting to know the Iranian community in Winnipeg, and through friends of friends, we sort of imagined new characters for the scenes we were going to shoot there, and it was a very organic and very beautiful and fun process.
It seems like a personal movie to you.
Yeah,
because you lived in Montreal, or I don't know if you still do. Do you still live there?
Yeah.
Okay, so you're from Winnipeg. You live in Montreal, and your family, my understanding, is back home in Winnipeg.
J'habite à Montréal depuis longtemps là, mais oui, j'ai grandi à Winnipeg.
Fait que c'est le Québec que t'aimes pas finalement.
Non, c'est pas ça.
Mais t'aimerais mieux habiter à Alberta.
Non. Au Manitoba, non.
Ben non.
Ah, c'est juste que Winnipeg est au Manitoba. L'Alberta, c'est une autre affaire.
Ben, au contraire. Alberta, c'est la capitale de Winnipeg.
Non. Si vous prenez la carte du Canada, il y a d'abord le Québec, ensuite il y a l'Ontario, puis après ça, il y a la province du Manitoba. Winnipeg est la capitale. Si on veut aller en Alberta, il faut traverser
OK, OK, OK. Là, vous autres, là, puis votre ouest canadien, blé rocheuse, personnellement, je m'en crisse.
One of the other plots on this Hawaiian pizza is is you, Matthew Rankin,
Yeah.
Going back home from Montreal to see your mom and to see your family. I would love just to hear a little bit about this film, maybe being a personal story to you. Is it?
Yes, I am. There were 3 plots that we kind of wrote. One was the one I described. The second one is a plot about a tour guide moving some befuddled tourists through the city, and that plot was really drawn from my father's life. He was a real booster for Winnipeg. He was a very lifelong proud citizen, and really took a lot of he had like real love for these kind of bland monuments that are throughout Winnipeg, and was really concerned with like Winnipeg history. And
he loved like learning about the Red River and the labor strike and
all
Louis Riel and
that kind of stuff. Yeah, he really believed in that, and growing up, I didn't really understand that, but I really now I really like that a lot. So that plot is sort of about him, and then the third one was going to be about whatever was going on with me at the time we were filming. We had no idea when this would ever be made. So
hold on, you said that the third plot will be about whatever's going on with me at the time.
Yeah, that was sort of the idea. There's kind of a trope in Iranian cinema where the director kind of plays a character.
Okay.
And so there was, my thinking was that this would be, something I should do. I should put myself in it. I should put my skin in the game. And Ila and Piruz were kind of very insistent that I actually play myself, that it would have no meaning if I hired an actor to play me and stuff. And they were right. So eventually I just had to buck up and go for it.
Could I be so bold as to ask what was going on?
Yeah. Well, I mean,
when the time came that,
Yeah. Well, I mean, we're coming out of the pandemic, right? And it's my mother died right at the very beginning of the pandemic. I was in Berlin at the Berlin Film Festival. She passed away very suddenly, and so I went back to Winnipeg.
Sorry, Matthew.
Thanks, Tom. Yeah. So I went back to Winnipeg and then so I went back to Winnipeg at the beginning of March 2020. So we all know where that went. So so then I found myself kind of walking through these familiar streets that I grew up on, and I was in this intense solitude and kind of rediscovering Winnipeg for the first time. And then I had to do all this stuff. Like I had to kind of like shop for a cemetery and stuff. It's a really strange thing to do. And
yeah, I know.
I went to this one cemetery where my great grandparents are buried, and their grave is like right next to a highway, like filled with snarling traffic. And I found this to just be completely absurd. So we kind of adapted that scene into a scene in the movie.
Seigneur Jésus, que t'as pleuré ton ami Lazare au tombeau, essuie-nous là. Donne-lui la
It is an autobiographical piece, and it's very strange for me to be in it. But I was again really inspired by Hossein Sabzian, who is the star of Close Up by Abbas Kiarostami, and the plot of that is he does this fraudulent imitation of the great Iranian director Mohsen Makhmalbaf, and he tricks this family into believing that he is this great director, but in fact he's this sort of desperate, kind of lost soul, and it's a very beautiful and also very funny film. And so I was sort of channeling that. It was summoning Hossein Sabzian's fraudulent imitation of Makhmalbaf. I would channel into a fraudulent imitation of myself.
I really loved that part of the film. I find I guess sometimes with experimental filmmakers talking to them, a distance. I try to shut off my brain from trying to figure it out. I try to shut off my brain from trying to read too much into it. I just try to accept it like going down a water slide or something like that, and all the emotions I'll feel, I just sort of accept and am aware of. And that was, I don't want to presume any intimacy where there isn't any, but when there is that scene at the highway, I'm embarrassed to tell you that. So when you go to visit one of the graves, I did press pause and I said, this name is very similar to Matthew's own name. And I paused the film and I Googled it and I saw that it was your actual dad it was your actual dad's name, and it was a moment of you standing at your father's grave.
Yeah.
It was beautiful. Yeah, quite beautiful.
Thanks, Tom. Yeah.
That's a lot to give in a film.
Yeah, it's true. No, the idea was to make myself as vulnerable as I could, which is a strange thing to do in public. But
Yeah.
but yeah,
It was all right.
it was great. I'm really proud of it. But I mean, I really want to stress this. We made this as a community, and I made this with my best friends, and it's I couldn't have done it without them. I wouldn't have been able to be as vulnerable were I not surrounded by people I really love.
I feel like I'm allowed to ask you this question because I get it a lot.
Yeah.
As being from Newfoundland, I get a lot of, so what's going on in the water out there with you guys? What's going on out there? You guys, you're talking and chatting with everybody out there. What's going on? What's going on out there? And it's usually people from, I don't know, Markham asking me this question. And I go like, no one asks you about that. No one asks you what's in the water in Toronto.
What's going on in Markham?
But there is, I don't know. But there's something going, I want to know if it's a coincidence or whether you think there's anything to it that you and Guy Madden are both from Winnipeg. That there is, and like Wanda Coop, and like there's, and I don't know, John K. Sampson. I could keep going.
Sure.
Like experimental art, in particular film, which is not well represented in Canada, experimental film, fully across the board. Two major filmmakers coming from the same place. Anything about Winnipeg? What's in the water out there, et cetera?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think, there's sort of two Winnipegs, I think. One is a very kind of corporate Winnipeg that is trying very desperately and to kind of integrate and conform into North American mainstream with all of its tropes of success and fame and celebrity and fortune and all this kind of stuff. And Winnipeg just wants to be a normal place just like everybody else. But there's this other Winnipeg which has always existed, and you can trace it from Louis Riel to the 1919 General Strike to Guy Madden, the Winnipeg Film Group, everything, Rain Vermette, all of these greats. And that is a very defiant, very punk rock Winnipeg that is really, really committed to creating a singular space in total defiance of the rest of North America. And that's the Winnipeg that I really love.
And you feel that Winnipeg growing up there?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Really? Like, so when you can become, I don't know, I spent a lot of time out there. I feel like I spend a lot of time with the people of that. I mean, I used to love Mitch Podolak, who was the wild Marxist head of the Winnipeg Folk Festival.
Yeah, master banjo player.
Incredible banjo player. I used to go to this place called Mondragon, I think it was called, this vegetarian cafe in downtown, downtown Winnipeg, which had, I think there was, again, Marxist kind of names for reservations, on like you were sitting at the Marx table or something like that, and it was a vegan restaurant.
Sounds about right.
It does feel sort of countercultural when I'm there. I would love to talk a little bit about what you remember about coming up and
Yeah, well, I mean, I joined the Winnipeg Film Group when I was a teenager, which was kind of strange because I was, surrounded primarily by maladjusted 40-something bachelors. But
not a lot of wedding rings in the room is what you're saying. I understand. I get you. Yeah.
But it was kind of great. It's like, these were people living on the edge of society, and Guy, I mean, is of course an enormous inspiration to all Winnipeg filmmakers. I love Guy Madden. His method of kind of working on a massive, grandiose, epic scale with his Dollarama budget is something that I think has inspired multiple generations. Also, a real commitment to like weirdness in Winnipeg.
Yeah.
There's like a real commitment to like just a defiance of sort of mainstream normcore kind of stuff.
I really love that about it.
Yeah, it's cool.
Can I ask you about the beginning of the film, and maybe this is a good way to close things off?
Sure.
Is in the name of friendship as the dedication?
Yeah.
Why was that the dedication?
Yeah, Benami Dousti. Well, it's a beautiful thing. Piruz Nemati had the idea to put that at the beginning because in a lot of at the beginning of a lot of Iranian films, it's written Benami Khoda, in the name of God, and we always kind of like this, the idea that you start a film sort of in the name of that which is the most sacred to you. So we decided that was going to be our little statement. What is to follow, what you will watch after this point, is made in the name of what is most sacred. And for us, that was our friendship.
I thought it was a really beautiful film. I really loved it watching it.
Thanks a lot, Tom.
Thanks for making the time to come in.
My pleasure.